as a woman, you have the career, children, a lot of demand. How can one maintain that calmness, the spirit of calmness, despite having a lot of deadlines to meet up with?
Now, Christians have two kinds of man, the inner man and the outer man. And Paul was saying that we should be strengthened with might by his spirit in the inner man. The Christian believes that God is able to multiply grace from us, and God strengthens you in your inner man and you are still. And then you believe that God will give you the capacity, God will give you the wisdom, God will give you the opportunity, that even with the little you do, God can actually do much for you. So there comes a time in your Christian life when you realize that for every situation, there is an aspect handle, and there's another aspect God handles. Now, when you come to your wit-end corner, you will look up to the rock that is higher than you are.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for today's sermon. In the service today, you talked about being still in the face of storms. I just want to know, how can we be still? How can we be calm with all the storms? As a woman, you have the career, children, a lot of demands. How can one maintain that calmness, the spirit of calmness, despite having a lot of deadlines to meet up with?
Now, I think one of the most fascinating experience I have was when I read about Paul praying for the Ephesian church, that they will be strengthened with power by the spirit in the inner man. Now, Christians have two kinds of man, the inner man and the outer man. And Paul was saying that we should be strengthened with might by his spirit in the inner man. Now, Solomon once said that a man's spirit shall sustain his infirmity. And so what I look at it is this. From the natural point of view, we are creatures of reactions, of reflexes, of responding to the external environment. And usually what checks us is our brain. But to the Christian, we have this power strengthening us in our inner man that allows us to make very right, objective judgments based on the will of God. So first of all, you must have the Spirit of God. Then secondly, you must be strengthened by the Spirit in that man. Then thirdly, you must come to the point that God is sovereign and that He is able to do beyond what you think or ask. For example, you have deadline because you believe that until you do those deadlines, you can't succeed. You believe that until you go to your work and earn a particular salary, you can't take care of yourself or your family. And you believe that you need to get certain things to make certain things happen. But the Christian believes that God is able to multiply grace from us. Just like Jonathan said, that it doesn't matter with God whether we're small or we're big. And so when we say God is sovereign, we are saying, God, this is a stormy situation. I have this deadline. I'm reading, I'm working, I need some money to get this done. I need to have buildings, I need to have some care. I say God is sovereign. And God strengthens you in your inner man and you are still. And then you believe that God will give you the capacity, God will give you the wisdom, God will give you the opportunity, that even with the little you do, God can actually do much for you. It's like what the Hebrew writer says, they that have come into his rest, they have ceased from their labor. So there comes a time in your Christian life when you realize that for every situation, there is a handle you handle, and there's another aspect God handles. Now, when you come to your wit end corner, you will look up to the rock that is higher than you.
We want to know how can one truly uh, become a godly woman?
Now, I think that Christianity runs counter to the culture of the world. And that's why Paul said in Romans 12 that we should not be conformed to this world, but we should be transformed by the renewing of our mind. So it means that we have a godly mindset that questions the status quo, that asks a simple question: is this good? Is this acceptable? Is it the perfect will of God? And so one way we become a godly woman is not to do everything every woman does. Because we have a model, and that model is Christ. You know? And Christ taught us that the whole thing we see in this world, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, they are of this world and they vanish away. Let me give you an example. Why do I have to have 3 houses? You know? Why do I have to have 4 cars? Why do I have to buy the latest model of car? Why do I have to have gold? You know, these are the questions a child of God answers. But to a man of the world, these are the things that his life is centered on. That is his lifestyle. That is what, to him, that is what is life. But Jesus Christ says a man's life does not consist of the abundance of things he possesses. Paul said to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and is peace. So while the worldly man is driven by deadlines, driven by pursuing things, he never has peace. He keeps eluding him. But the godly man is content, not complacent, and even with the little he has, he's peaceful. And if God brings more, he knows that the grace he received from God is for distribution, not for hoarding or just for himself. And so he is a person who engages the world biblically, scripturally, not just go at the world. It's like what I used to say. The Christian man is not a driven man, he's a called man. He's responding to something higher than what is in this terrestrial world. And that is why the Bible calls us a peculiar people. When they look at you, why are you not joining us? Why are you not like us? So you are a very peculiar person. And the Bible not only says we are peculiar, but we are royal priesthood, called to show forth the virtue of him that has called us out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Thank you very much, sir. The next question is more of a secular question. I, if one has an uncooperative spouse, maybe the who is not ready to cooperate. For instance, if you feel the next thing for you to do is to build house where you are, but your spouse feel like, oh, I want to go to my village to build house there. How does one find peace and balance?
Is more of discretion. I mean, when we got married, first of all, I didn't even think of having a house because I was just getting involved. And when I said something, maybe my parents could help me. My wife now told me, let's do something where we are. To me, it looked foolish. But with gentle persuasion, without being aggressive, she won me over. You see, a woman should have what it takes to get her way without necessarily being domineering. I mean, sometimes you need to pray about certain things and then gently and wisely go forward. For example, you will not start by saying, let us build a house. Well, we don't lose anything if we get a land. It's cheap. We don't lose anything for this 200 whatsoever currency you have if we start building some set of blocks so that we get something doing. We don't lose anything if we call an architect to give us the home we need to design. You can take a few calculations and say, look, let's calculate how much you pay on rent here for the next 3 years. We don't lose anything if we decide to build a small house and leave it at that. Sometimes most men or women, or whichever is involved, they don't want to carry too much load. Even if you don't pity them, they pity themselves because they look at themselves as, I'm stressed. You know? I mean, I'm stressed. The little money I have, I'm not even able to manage it. And there's another load is coming on my head. So one should be very empathetic. Somebody said that compassion is a mixture of sympathy and empathy. Sympathy plus empathy equals to compassion. You know? So one should be saying, well, I understand. You know, maybe I can give you this amount of money. Maybe I can do this, if you're, like you're saying, you're a doctor. Maybe I did a locum here, and can we add this? People always want you to be a helper rather than making everything prescriptive. Do you get it? For example, if somebody tells me, let's get this land now, and I'm just recovering from something, I'm very unhappy. Oh, see, well, this land I saw cost 2 million. Actually, there was one 500,000 I'm keeping for something, I want to give it out. Oh, well, that's good. Let's call the man. Would you mind us giving 500 and collect the rest later? He says yes. So always see how you can ease the burden. It's just like when I finish preaching on Sunday morning and I'm shaking hands with somebody and then somebody comes to me, please, sir, I can't pay my school fees. You know, I will not be a very happy person. I would rather you greet me, thank me, give me a cup of water, you know what I mean, encourage me rather than telling me you want to pay your school fees. Everything is about timing. Everything about praying. Now, sometimes we have an extreme husband whose priorities are lopsided, who is, you know, careless with money, who is even a drunkard. You need to also use wisdom to know how to achieve your goal without necessarily being confrontational or fighting. I always tell people, let us look at the balance. You know, when I say, if you do like this, I'll get out of it. It is easier said that you can leave the home. It's easier said that you can separate. But you have not looked at the consequences of separation. It's easier said that you can marry another man or marry another husband. As I said, when you marry a new person, you're going to start where you started from. And you never know whether at the point you are in this journey, when it gets there, whether everything won't have scattered. So in a sense, we need to be very discretional. We need to count the costs. You know, if you are leaving somebody else because you feel the person is shouting, you may just go and meet somebody else who is actually very lazy. So at the end of the day, you balance everything. But for all intents and purposes, what I keep saying is, don't go into an emotional treadmill where you're always fighting, always complaining. You actually enjoy yourself. And before you know, the person you are talking to begins to look for other channels. If it's an academic, he goes to his office and hides. If it's a doctor, he stays in his clinic. If it's a trader, he begins to trade late. If it's a person who does shift service, he will begin to ask for more shifts. so as to shift away from you. So in every sense, before you say anything, I think you should weigh both sides and make a decision that you know would actually not have an adverse effect. I appreciate your comments and I take them seriously. Whatsoever you need clarification, let us know. And other episodes of this interview will be able to do it. You can also join us in all our other social media and send your questions. I'll be ready to pray with you and support you. Don't forget, God will never make a case against you. Don't ever try to make a case against yourself. God will reach out to you.